Order, Trophy Club Municipal District 1, monthly meeting. We have a quorum. Item number 1, the Trophy Club MUD 1 will conduct a public hearing regarding adoption of district tax rate for tax year 2017. We'll go into citizens' comments. This is an opportunity for citizens to address the board on any matter, whether or not it's posted on the agenda. The board is not permitted to take action on or discuss any presentations made to the board at this time concerning an item not listed on the agenda. The board will hear presentations on the specific agenda items prior to the board addressing those items. You may speak up to 3 minutes or the time limit determined by the president or presiding officer. The public hearing is now convened at 6:38.
Lori, I can't get the PDF to open. Maybe I just found the right button. Sorry, Joe.
No problem. Are there any speakers?
No.
Okay, there are no speakers. The public hearing is now closed at 6:38. We'll move into the consent agenda. All matters listed as consent agenda are considered to be routine by the Board of Directors and will be enacted by one motion. There will not be a separate discussion of these items. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. Okay, so we have items A through D that are in the consent agenda. Would anyone like to remove any of those items? Seeing none, I'll take a motion to approve consent agenda items A through D.
I move.
A second.
Director Rose made a motion, seconded by Director Thomas. Any questions or comments? Hear none. All in favor, raise your hand. Any opposed? Seeing none, consent agenda items pass. We now enter into regular session. Consider and take appropriate action regarding the proposed water and sewer rates, including summary and review of sewer models developed by New Gen Strategies. Chris Eckert, please proceed.
All right, good evening, members of the board. Again, Chris Eckert with New Gen Strategies and Solutions. I do want to thank you for allowing me to go first tonight to accommodate my scheduling issues, so I very, very much appreciate that. Since I was with you last time, we've worked with staff. We've also held a conference call with Director Wilson to go in and refine the numbers and clarify what the recommended rate action is going into next year. As you can see on the screen right now, again, the situation is still the same. We anticipate over-recovering on the water side, under-recovering on the sewer side. As was discussed in our conference call, the over-recovery on the water side is not intended or not thought that it will be an ongoing condition. Just to remind you, we will continue to see increases from Fort Worth every year on wholesale water. Additionally, we are anticipating some debt issuance upcoming for some water projects. So this is not an ongoing condition. This is more an anomaly at this time that you see on the water side. So our recommendation is that you hold your water rates consistent going into next year. Again, on the sewer side, we are anticipating the under recovery that you see. Mr. Hayes.
Yes, did Fort Worth give us the estimated increase yet?
Yes, sir. That has been baked
built
into
in
the
there.
numbers. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right. So just as we did last time, we ran two different scenarios. Basically, one would be taking up half of the increase needed on sewer. The other would be going the full increase, or 24%. I will also remind you that next April you will reset your winter average. You could gain some ground when that winter average is reset. Your billing determinants or billed volumes could potentially increase at that time. Additionally, if the board goes through the cost allocation process and chooses at that time to reallocate cost, you could also see some changes in cost. Given that those changes will be coming next April, my personal recommendation to you would be only go halfway, go the 12% that is needed right now, and then reevaluate again next April once you have those new billing determinants in place. You can see what that 12% increase would do, both to the fixed charge. We are keeping the rate structure the same. We are keeping the cost allocation the same between residential and commercial based on the winter average and the plant flows that were set last April. So that cost allocation remains the same. That's why you see the difference in the residential and the commercial charges. The far right-hand column is the full 24% increase. And again, that is rates. On the next slide, you see what that would do to a customer's sewer bill. This is sewer only. We're not looking at any changes on water. This is sewer only. So for 5,000 gallons, that would be a little less than $4 more a month. On a 12% increase, on a 24% increase, that would be $7.88.
The shortfall in sewer revenue is being made up by what?
That's why we're looking to increase rates, is to make it up through the rate revenue. Now, if you only go the 12%, there would still be potentially a shortfall there. If you only go 12 instead of 24, presumably that shortfall would be either made up through fund balance, or you would need to look at rates again next April when you reset that winter average to make sure you balance at the end of the year.
If I understand the numbers, and help me if I've got it wrong, the wastewater is short 635,000. So if we make up half of it, the shortfall will be 313,000.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And that $313,000 will come from where?
That 313 could come from multiple sources. It could
The bill's still got to get paid.
The bill still have to get paid. It could be paid through the overage that we're anticipating on water. It could be paid by drawing down fund balance, or you could adjust rates again next April to make up the rest of that shortfall.
What's the anticipated overage in water?
725,000.
Okay.
Again, I'm not necessarily a proponent of subsidizing sewer with water.
I'm not either.
But given that you will adjust your winter average next April, it's possible we will gain some ground. At the same time, we may lose some ground. If we have a really wet winter and people don't water during the winter, you could see a change there. So it's just a matter of trying to take measured action at this time, because we wouldn't want to come in next April, reset the winter average, and then potentially be in a situation where we're over-recovering on the sewer side. My recommendation is looking at what's in the best interest of your customers.
So then let me ask the question a different way. And please forgive me, I'm kind of...
No, you're fine. You're fine. Not a problem.
I would assume nothing prohibits us from changing the water rates such that we draw down $725,000 less and raising the sewer rates so that we draw up $635,000 more. In essence, our residents pay no more. And the money is the way it should be, water paying for water, sewer paying for sewer. What's wrong with that?
Nothing prohibits that, but I will caution when you're sending price signals to customers, if you come in and lower the water rates in one year, then raise them the next year, you're sending inconsistent signals. Your customers have already adjusted to the rates as they stand right now. They've put that in their monthly budget. They know what to expect. If you come in and adjust your rates up and down year to year, it starts sending mixed signals to them. So it's also much easier to lower rates than it is to raise rates.
So we just, as a board, we got to decide where the other $313,000 is going to come from.
That's true, and again, some of that 313 could be made up next April. So
or we could change our previous policies and take it from water.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Carmen, I'm trying not to give you a budget that you can't manage or can't complete.
No, I understand. It's a big challenge, and there are some challenges around our wastewater project that are, honestly being driven by folks with agendas who are raising our costs in that arena.
Yeah.
We have to face that cost. That's a part of the challenge of getting our permit renewed and so on. But at the end of the day, I think this halfway notion has the least short-term impact on our sewer customers.
You would recommend that?
I would. Effectively, either we adjust them again in April, or we let water subsidize sewer for 1 year of the 2-year time frame.
Well, I'll hush. I can accept that.
Yeah. So I want to just make a point of clarification. To my knowledge, there's not a district policy that prohibits water subsidizing sewer. It's more of a philosophy that the board has embarked upon, correct? I want to make sure that I haven't missed anything.
To my knowledge, that's correct.
Okay. And for the record, I'm
I agree.
I'm completely with you. I'm not an advocate of having water subsidized sewer. But I also understand your concern with having the rates constantly change. There should be some predictability to it. Director Rose.
If I could, I speak a little bit to the issue. One, as you've briefed, there is an overage right now on water. But the other side of that equation is, since I've been on this board, there's been continuing discussion about a lack of adequate reserves and a reserve policy, which is on the budget later. I've talked often about a seasonal reserve to cover a wet year. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, I've been using the wrong term. I discovered reading AWWA that the correct term is a rate stabilization fund. It is a reserve fund. I think we need to develop one of those, seriously, to help stabilize the rates. The other point is we can take that water excess and develop a rate stabilization fund for water. Now, in my mind, we have a rate stabilization fund for water, and we have one for sewer. Now, I don't see much of a variation in sewer funding income revenue. There'd be a possibility of a little if you lost a major customer. But beyond that, I don't see, based on winter averaging, there should not be a large variation off the residential base. Any variation would come off the commercial base. And so that would be the variation that you would really need to be looking at. The water side of the equation, we right now, looking at just the month of August that we completed, our August water sales were the lowest they have been since August of 2009. So sales are down. The good part, I talk about this later, the good part is that staff has been managing the expenses extremely well. And so they've kept us over on a plus side, let me put it that way. I'll save the rest of the reserve discussion, but I'm in favor of going to the 0.5%. The halfway mark. Ultimately, we have to acknowledge the fact that that sewer is short $635,000. I looked at that, $635,000. I looked at that and I looked at last year and tried to figure out exactly where the funds were, where it comes in. And it comes in basically in additional expenses that we seem to have, is what was the driver. I mean, it's not salaries or anything that's really attackable. So but the other side of going the halfway now is if you don't do it now and we get to August, or get to next April and go through this drill and come up in exactly the same place, we now have 6 months to make up $635,000.
Yeah.
And that will not be pretty.
If I could also speak on the rate stabilization fund, I think that's a great idea as you talk about reserves. I think that's something the rating agencies would look highly upon, especially as you look towards issuing debt in the future. To the extent you could do something like that, I think that's highly recommended.
Would you consider that terminology, rate stabilization? We generally look upon reserves as a weather phenomenon. And
we can mince words all night, honestly, but if I had my way, you would have an O&M reserve, you would have a capital reserve, you would have a rate stabilization fund. We would parse this up significantly.
Yeah.
But the goal, again, is preparing for the future, preparing for those unexpected events, whether they be weather, whether they be an unanticipated capital item, any of those type of phenomenon.
I would observe that it hasn't rained in September. So there's a good chance water sales or that dropped below normal in August may not stay below normal.
That's possible. Meteorologists are right half the time. So
Let me add just a couple things for Director Rose. We've had that discussion about rate stabilization, often referred to as a rainy day fund. Is one way to talk about it, or the anti-rainy day fund, if you want to think about it that way. So I think that's good. We took a look at trying to integrate that into the cash reserve policy, which is later on the agenda.
Yeah.
I personally didn't feel like that was the right place for it, because that one has some very specific intent around how we manage our actual cash reserves. I think honestly it fits better in a risk management policy that addresses things like insurance deductibles, how do we fund pots of money for reasonably foreseeable eventualities, that kind of thing. So I'm totally good with that, and I just wanted to make that point. We'll be bringing back something along those lines. It really talks about risk management. How do we manage the risk of a really wet year? Or the other side of that is, the example I've used is if a contractor was digging out next to the 114 and hit our only source of water from the other side of the freeway, and it took a month to get it fixed, we'd be very short on revenue for that month, and having some sort of a mechanism to ensure our own loss there would be helpful.
Tony, did you have a comment?
I question whether the administrative expense was included in the water and wastewater.
Tony, can you pull your mic down? Can't hear you.
yes, we've allocated administrative expenses between water and wastewater, so it has been included in the revenue needed.
Okay, are there any other questions or comments on item number 3? If not, can I have a motion? Let's not everyone speak at once.
Nobody wants to take the hit. I move that we increase the proposed wastewater rates to those shown under half the 12% number on page 31 of our packet for action in the rate order.
Director Rose made a motion. Do I have a second?
I reluctantly second that.
Let the record show Director Hayes reluctantly seconded. Any other questions or comments?
Hurts to laugh.
Hearing or seeing none, all in favor, raise your hand. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion passes.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Right, thank you.
Chris, thanks.
It's Chris. Safe driving.
Here, we may want to defer to number 4.
Okay. The resident's not here for item number 4, so we will bypass that for now until she shows up, and if not, then we'll address it at the end. Okay,
I believe she's here now.
Timing's perfect.
yep, there they are.
Well, maybe we don't defer.
I think timing is immaculate.
Yes. Okay,
Don't sit down. I think you're next on the
yeah,
agenda.
you're next on the agenda, so come on up, Mark. Okay, next item, consider and take appropriate action regarding a request for reduction on the June utility service bill for the customer at 2001 Churchill Down Lane. Staff?
Okay, we have been out to this address a few times for leak checks and everything. We've got a few work orders in there. We have done a data profile log on this address, and it does show that the water that was in question did go through the meter. It showed up on the data log. So I mean, I don't know where it went or what happened to it, but it is staff's recommendation that we go along with what the data log says.
In here, it shows it's the staff recommending that we reduce the bill to 404.26 or simply leave the bill as originally charged at 569.45.
That is up to the board.
Yeah, the staff had originally made that offer to reduce the whole bill to the first tier, which would have put it at 404. But the petitioner was not interested in that and wanted to come and talk to you. So staff is certainly comfortable with putting it at tier 1 at the 404 number.
Okay. Would you state your name and your address, and then feel free
Terry
to speak?
C., 2001 Churchill Downs Lane, Trophy Club.
And Mark C., 2001 Churchill Downs as well.
Okay.
I guess it's not even so much the,
Can you pull that mic up to where it picks up better? Thanks.
yes.
Thank you.
It's not so much the water bill itself, it's the usage. We've got to figure out what's going on. We used to live on the other side of Trophy Club, had about a 3/4 acre lot, had a 35,000 gallon swimming pool. We would have to fill that up twice and we'd still have, 13,000 gallons left over. If anybody can offer an idea, how can we go through this much water and never see the water anywhere?
Yeah,
I mean, our house would be floating down the street, or we would have standing water or something, and nothing's, and it turns itself off and on.
Did your water bill reduce? Is it back to
Yeah,
the
it's been-
previous level?
It's been normal.
So we went through a leak thing to see if it's a leak, then it would still be running. You know,
that's what they
the
can
times
check.
that it ran would be at night when we're asleep. We went through, is it sprinklers? And we could literally say, these are when the sprinklers come on and then they come off. And they were not even at that same time. So we're kind of going, okay, if we've got this amount of water, it should go somewhere. There's a float, it's running down the street or something. So that was our, hey, can you help us understand there's nothing that we've turned on or off or running, any toilets or sinks or that type of stuff.
And whatever it is, it turns itself off and on, like for a day, and then it's on for 6 days straight. This is all the times it was on. Where's that water?
Is there any rhyme or reason? There's no regular schedule with the water usage? It just seems to kind of go on and go off?
It ran for quite a few days at one point, but, unless somebody was actually out there to
Looking
check
at
what
it.
was going on during that time.
Yeah, we were home, but,
Yeah.
I mean, there was in 1 hour, 1,003 gallons of water. We don't have a pool, it's just me and him. I only shower if I have to, and, I mean, we got 2 dogs.
You'd have to leave your
We don't
back-
know.
You'd have to leave your back faucet on full blast almost
And
all
our
day.
bathtubs, and, I
So we were
mean,
trying to think of what size pipe would even be able to produce
That much
that
water.
amount of water over a period of time.
I know when we first had our house built and down the street from you, we had a leak in our sprinkler system,
Right.
but ours never went down. Oh, and we used about this amount of water. It was on the side, and I never saw it or felt it because I never walk on the side of the house. But it was right over by the air conditioner, and wasn't
asked
until
the
we had the plumber
landscapers.
come out the 4th time when they finally discovered it. Well, because it drains down, that was before the house on the
Right.
corner was built, so it
Yeah.
just drained another yard. So I never really saw or felt the full impact. However, it didn't fix itself. We actually had to have it
yeah,
corrected, and
and it goes off and on.
yeah.
And
Yeah,
again, like
and
I
that one
said,
didn't go off and on.
you would have what pipe, as he said, can possibly carry over 1,000 gallons of water in an hour? How big would that pipe have to be?
3/4 1-inch irrigation
Yeah,
pipe.
if it was
Yeah.
just
Going-
running, if it was just on the whole time,
Yeah.
it would do it.
But see, with our yard, especially in the backyard, all our water flows down in the middle, and it flows down between us and the neighbor. And you could always see any excess water. And I asked our landscapers, have y'all seen any watery areas, water standing, whatever? No. We're just totally baffled. I mean, you
Yeah.
think it's ours, but what is it and what changed? We were even had our, we're idiots. We had our water sprinkler system set at a seasonal adjust, so it was only doing 50% of what it normally does. So where I have it water each zone, and we only have 6 zones, at 20 minutes, it was really only doing 10 minutes till just.
When your
August.
sprinklers come on, water comes out of the heads?
They could, yeah.
Yeah, because the only thing that would make any sense at all is if
Yeah,
the
it's not
underground
shooting
line
straight
was
up or-
busted and the water was
Yeah, and
blowing
it was
out.
just blowing straight
And
up.
again, I mean, you just have to find the water
Is,
somewhere.
is Wise Guys completely, I know they're ending. Are they done
Yeah.
already? Okay, I was about to say.
There's
maybe
another
that was-
program that Carmen has got info
It's on
on.
the, it's on the staff report later, but we do have a relationship with a firm who is taking over the program. I'm still not clear on the branding and the name of the new program, but it's shown on our website, so you can go in there and look and sign up for a water audit. It's free. But these guys really work on sprinkler systems and take a look at those sorts of things, so it's certainly available today.
But what's weird is everything's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, it
Current
went
today,
on
yeah, it's-
from April till, as far as we know, till June, or, and part of July, and then stopped.
Yeah.
And then it goes on for 3 days and
Yeah.
off
Carl, does your data log, I mean, does it by hour?
By hour.
hour.
Are you seeing a consistent large flow over a large number of hours?
No, not a large flow over hours. I think the time it was running for days, I don't think the usage was real high.
It was just consistent.
Yeah, it was pretty
Consistent
high.
over that time.
It was pretty- Well, the one guy that
Like
came
maybe
out,
somebody left a faucet on.
see.
That's what it
well,
attribute to.
that's not what we were told, but
I was thinking maybe you have a sticking control valve in your water irrigation system, but even that, I would expect you to see
we'd still be,
Yeah.
a wet
It would be-
area.
It would be soggy. When behind us, the HOA pipes had busted or whatever, and it flows right
Right into
in,
our yard.
right down, takes a left-hand turn around the house, and, you know, we know pretty quickly going, oh,
I think we talked to you about.
Yeah, yeah,
Help.
I remember that.
we watch for the water.
I also remember the water bill we got from that as well.
Yeah.
How many gallons was used, by the way?
I don't know, but it was a lot.
High?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was wet for a while, and I kept telling him, something's wrong somewhere. We turned
Yeah.
our water off,
It-
but we can see it running.
Yeah.
Is this anomaly still occurring, or has it
No,
stopped?
not as
Stop.
far as we know. I mean, our water usage, has been about normal. I think it's between.
In your
12
data log report,
So it went up
how
for,
far back did you go?
From
and how-
like
I think we went 90 days.
April to July, yeah.
And
of
what did you
last-
see in the
this
last
year.
30 days?
Normal.
Normal, probably.
Yeah, I mean, it went on for that time period of era, and then it stopped.
so 1 month, maybe June, it was higher than normal.
I think it
And
kind of rolled
then,
into one and into another,
It was April,
two separate.
May, June, and then part of July. And the bill, I think, was a June bill, and it was 78,000 gallons of water. How many
Yeah.
people are in your household?
there's 5 of us, and we don't go, we do 18 at best.
Let's see.
Yeah, we can see the sprinklers, and I even got out there and ran the sprinklers and then watched the little
looked, yeah.
thing and said, okay, it's on, it's off, and tried to calculate. And we could really pretty much say, at this time, that's what's going on, and that's when we're using it. The oddity was that it's not even those times. It would be after those hours, and then it could go through the day, which you're like, all right, I'm out. You know, we're doing work, and it's still going somewhere. So, like I said, it fixes itself.
Yeah.
Thank God it's not happening
It's
anymore.
going off and on.
So,
I guess from our standpoint, I think the staff has used all the tools that they're available. Unfortunately, there's no way for us, other than the meter and the data log, to tell. We know the water went through the system. We don't necessarily know where it went. Specifically, what's your request of us? What is it that you're asking us to do?
Well, at this point, reduction in our water bill, and maybe something that's a little more fair than just a tier 4 something. And we lived here 20-something years, never had a water bill close to this. I think the highest it ever was at our other house was about $250.
What was your average, what's your average water bill during this time? The month
Um,
before and the month afterwards?
I don't think it might be 200, a little over 200.
yeah.
So about half of what was offered.
Yeah, if you do half, we'd pay
Yeah,
it.
that's fine.
I mean, if we gotta pay it all, we gotta pay it all, but.
Right. And we'll certainly look
use.
at doing the, whatever we can do. At one point, I think we went overboard and turned everything off just to say, okay, but it was like, well, that's not what's gonna help because it fixes itself. But just to say, I don't want to be here again, we'll shut everything off upstairs. Upstairs, if something ran, you'd hear it. There's 2 bedrooms downstairs, and, if it's running, you can hear it.
Well,
a
it can't run
toilet
that
running.
much.
But we were like, okay, that pipe that's inside the house wouldn't be of the size to have produced
That much water.
that amount of water. So like I said, we went overboard, and that's fine, but I've gone and I've checked everything, and every Saturday morning I'll get up and I'll look just to see if anything's going on.
And if it's been raining, we turn it physically off.
Yeah,
I
we
mean,
don't
we
trust
just
our
don't.
little
Well,
sprinkler gauge to ever.
I'm convinced y'all have really tried to figure this thing out.
Well, yeah.
If it was a meter problem, I will tell you, the flow would be very if the meter had gone bad, the flow would be very consistent, and you'd see it all the time. That's why I was asking him the
yeah.
question. So it appears to me there's nothing wrong with the meter.
Yeah, I definitely want to work with the audit company that can,
Yeah, no,
Probably be on the low side, not the high side.
Right.
If the meter was bad.
yeah. We don't know what's going on. And nobody else.
If I could, Renee has pulled up the usage. If she could give that to us, I'll let you read your own chart from, this is gallons.
Okay, for the month of March, 15,000 gallons of water was used. April was 14,000. Then it jumped in May to 32,000. And then it jumped in June to 78,000.
Good grief.
And then in July it came back down to 23,000. And then August was 22,000. So May and June really went,
And we had quite a bit of rain then.
off the
didn't we?
charts.
Yeah,
And May and June were wet months.
yeah, real
Yeah.
wet this year.
You didn't have a neighbor filling their pool, did
No
you?
pools
No, we
there.
don't have a neighbor
We
with a
thought-
pool. There's been the conspiracy theory that, somebody's using our water,
Somebody's
but
using our water.
you would have to see somebody filling up big buckets or boats,
And like I said, when it is raining, I go and turn it off because the rain, it doesn't catch anything unless it's currently raining. So I just pop it off.
Oh, geez.
But you're saying this has stopped,
Analog?
stopped doing this when?
Correct. Yeah, we're back to normal.
And when did that start?
July, I guess, I think.
So the
they're-
569.45 is really for the month of July.
Yeah, I would say pretty much a month.
Or, I'm sorry, the month of June.
Her dad.
That was the 78,000 gallon month, correct?
Yeah.
Correct.
That was June.
78.
So August went back to more of a normal usage?
Correct. Correct.
I have a copy. Jim.
Looks like June 26th, June 30th was the last high.
No, I think it's
Oh, that's the whole
one,
thing?
I think that's one data log for the entire month.
Okay, let me touch bases on this one. First of all, I don't think that we have a policy that specifically addresses this particular issue. I could be wrong. I think I've looked at building one.
I think you're
and-
right. For leaks, I'm struck that we don't have a leak policy.
Okay.
It's really common for utilities to have leak policies, but what happens is you say, well, if you found a leak and you can demonstrate evidence of having had it repaired, whether it's a picture of you in your gardening clothes and a receipt from Home Depot or a plumber's certificate saying that they came out and fixed it, then an estimate is made of the water that was lost but didn't go down the sewer, and then the reduction is actually made on the sewer side of the bill. Because technically, we're not allowed to charge different users different rates for water when they're in the same customer class. So you can make an adjustment on the sewer side if you know that that's water that did not go down the sewer. And that's the most common way to see a policy written around leaks. But to meet with that standard of charging everybody the same, that's in the same customer class, right? We have residential users and commercial users, just two classes here. We have to charge for what goes through the meter. But we certainly could take a look at developing a leak adjustment policy for known leaks. But you have to be able to find the leak and say this is what it was. Sounds like you haven't been able to find it.
Yeah, and the water's normal now. It's been,
So my question is, do we have latitude in this particular instance beyond reverting to the lowest cost per 1,000 gallons?
In some ways, that's a legal question.
that's-
Effectively, you're charging, a different rate. I mean, to some extent, you're doing that anyway if you reduce it all to tier 1 as a concept, so.
Tony?
Wish you had asked me this before, Carmen spoke. It's very common, and his point about rate discrimination is absolutely correct, but it's very common as a matter of policy for a retail public utility to grant relief in the sense that it would only charge its cost of service. The district's prohibited from giving away water. That would be an unconstitutional donation. But it's not uncommon to recover the districts and charge for the usage at the district's cost of production. But his point is a fair one, but it's a very common practice in the industry. In terms of the board's authority to take action if there's not a written policy, I mean, you have that discretion here to consider it at a public meeting.
Okay.
What's the cost per water per 1,000 gallons? Do you recall? I know you sleep with the cost of water study at night.
A little calculator right there.
No, I don't know that right off the top of my head what we pay for worth.
Well, it would be not only what we pay for wholesale water, but the cost of any
overhead that went.
delivery,
Yeah,
pumping, any chemicals we add, debt service on all of that. I mean, that number was probably available somewhere in Chris's notes about the per unit cost of service. But, it seemed to me that just going down to the lowest tier was a pretty fair approach. I mean, it's not being charged out on a tiered rate. I guess in concept, as I look at this, I think what was offered probably did not reduce the tiers on the wastewater side either.
Well, they should not have been, they should
But it
not
shouldn't have been the
a
issue because it was winter average. So they're
so
they're
that should-
paying
yeah.
their winter average, so it shouldn't have impacted their water side or their sewer side.
Yeah, it's been a disaster under winter averaging.
Let me tell you something weird about this data. It's a fairly consistent loss, in the 100 to 108 gallon range, except from 10 o'clock at night to roughly 4:30 in the morning. That's when it goes insane. All of the big numbers, 1,000 gallons, 800 gallons, 753 gallons, 805 gallons, they're all from
about the same.
2200 to 0430. That's really weird.
So someone in the morning is coming and taking our water.
It's somewhere around midnight, somebody's out there stealing water from you.
Yeah, you're right.
Big long
The
hose.
conspiracy theory. Yeah.
The only other time it
Every
happened
one
to
of
me
them. Every one
is
of them are like that.
the only other time it happened to me is when I learned embarrassingly that with the Rainbird systems, if there's a power spike, it set a program for cycle A, B, and C. I never look at B and C because I only look at A. But there's actually 3 different programs,
Yeah.
and it was actually running the same cycle 3 times.
Does yours have a hard set button that you set A, B, and C, or is yours digital?
It's digital, so you press the program, and it flips over, and so you have to go in. And actually, the irrigation guy showed me this because I just assumed it was always A, but when you press, I think it's program, it would go to B, and he said, "Oh, I see the problem. You're running the same thing."
Yeah.
Fortunately, he didn't charge me for it.
We
But
have
that's
actually
what was occurring for me. The times I've seen this in my limited experience since I've been on the board a year, that typically ends up being a sprinkler system that's gone awry. And I know, at least with ours, he told me, said, if there's a power outage, then it will default. It'll go back to default, which is running, and it'll set it for all 3. So now, anytime there's a power outage, I go out and I check.
We don't have power outages out here.
Ooh, maybe don't get to your end of the street.
Oh, no,
No,
always.
yeah,
It was
yeah.
worse than the others.
Yeah, ours is absolutely a manual, A,
manual.
B, or
ABC
settings,
doesn't.
so.
It's not
Are
digital.
both of you, I mean, do both of you work or away from home at the same time and
I'm home.
working from? Because it's, the other numbers in there were very consistent, hour after hour after hour, 103, 104, 101.
Yeah,
I mean,
in
just
June.
as consistent as could be. It's just that around midnight, it goes crazy.
Yeah, and the one on June, it's like several pages where it was just on for
Hours,
2.5 days.
Oh, yeah.
or
for hours, yeah,
Yeah.
hours and hours.
And then it went off somehow.
Right.
And that's the thing, it'll go on for 4 hours, go off, go on for 3 hours, go off.
Yeah, we looked through
Several
days.
places.
We looked through everything that could be a combination of going, okay, what was the day? What was the date? What day of the week is that?
Yeah.
And I gotta
came up
tell you,
with-
if your sprinkler's putting out 1,000 gallons of water, you're gonna see some wet spots the next morning.
And that's why we always go back to the bottom thing, no matter what scenario, is where's the water?
Yeah. Director Rose?
We're lost.
Couple of quick points. One, if you happen to have a sticking toilet flapper valve handle, because I've had one of these guys, you may flush it, it may only come back part, and that will run continuously. I was searching around on the internet, I found one where somebody had, in a matter of, I think it was 23 days, used 90,000 gallons. So their water bill was over $1,000. So that problem can exist, and you will not see it because it goes right on down through the sewer and we process it. The other point I want to make is in my looking around months ago, I looked at a report, water loss report. It's in the computer here someplace. I have to pull it up. But they did allow where they would pay the utility would absorb part of the cost in a situation like this for the customer. Now, I don't, and the other one I saw was out of the SAWS, it's in San Antonio, where they had done a study on their rate structure, and in the study came back and said, you folks are doing this where you're paying part of the expenses when somebody uses water, and we strongly suggest that you stop doing it because of the impact on your economic structure. That said, personally, and this is just, looking at the use here, I don't have a problem going with, what was that, May's use? That was 32,000? Okay, so if I go with 32,000, your general use is running 20 to 22. So if I go with 32,000, you are still paying more than what your normal use was. And I'm giving you some compensation, some break. And I don't know what that calculates out to. So,
The bill, what was the bill in May?
total bill in May.
If you're gonna make a motion, we can sort that out. You just have to say adjust it to this, and we'll take care of it.
Okay.
May's total bill was $254.40.
I'm gonna move that we make the June bill for 2001 Churchtown Downs Lane match the May bill for water use.
We have a motion by Director Rose to adjust 2001 Churchill Downs Lane water bill to be equal to their May water bill. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Director Hayes. Are there any other discussion?
Is that fair?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
And I-
$254.40 included all fees. It wasn't just water. The
Yeah.
water part was $192.82.
Could you read those gallon usages,
Is
May,
your
April
home
through,
1 or 2 stories?
August again? Because there was 2 months.
Nobody
wasn't
lives
there?
upstairs.
Okay,
Yeah.
so March was 15,000. Well, let me start at February. February was 4,000.
Can we get some dye pills they could take home with them? Put in the toilets. No, we have a pill you can put in the toilet.
March.
Oh,
Oh, really?
It lets you know if you have the
It's
problem
like
Bill's
Oh,
talking about.
dye pills.
Oh, okay.
You drop the
said
dye in the
and I was
tank.
like,
I've got some stuff that'll work.
You put the dye in the tank, you don't flush the toilet for an hour, and if
See
it
if
gets
it's-
blue in the bowl, you definitely have
we
a
go.
flapper that's leaking.
Okay,
Okay, all right, so February was 4,000. March was 15. April was 14,000. May was 32,000. June was 78,000. July was 23, and August was 22.
That's really only 1 month that I think is way out of bounds.
Now, I did look at last August, and last April, June was 21,000, July was 32, and August was 50. So,
Okay, we have a
so
motion
it's
and a
still
second,
high.
don't we?
Yeah, we have a motion and a second.
Any more discussion? Let's vote.
Any other? That's it. The clerk?
I need to make a point at this point in this juncture. This motion, I do not intend to be anything that sets a precedence, because we need to do a policy, okay?
So we're talking about the 192.82, which was the water cost only for the month of June.
So the water portion of it was 500 and,
No, the total was 569.45. The water part of June was, was 506.30 in June. The May bill was 192.82. So it's my understanding the motion is saying instead of the 506.30 in June, it will be reduced to 192.82. The rest of the fees will stay the same.
Yeah, winter average covers the other part.
That's correct.
okay, any other questions or clarification? Seeing none, all in favor, raise your hand. None opposed, motion passes.
Can I request, if possible, can we get those things from take home? If you'll just put them in each toilet and don't flush them for an hour or two.
Right, okay.
You'll know real quick. The blue dye seeps into the bowl real fast. It doesn't hurt the toilet at all.
The other thing is, what I'm talking about is not necessarily the flapper valve, which can be an issue. I'm talking about the handle.
Where the
Yes.
thing
So,
comes up to.
so when you flush it, watch the handle and see if the handle comes back up. But if it doesn't, and it's real slow, you might want to look at fixing it.
What I'm thinking is if you had one in the upstairs and nobody knew about it, you might not do it.
Yeah, we
Right.
go upstairs all the time, but we just don't have anybody.
Not using the restroom up there, because you're.
And please,
Up
do,
into the
do check the website, because these folks
Okay.
will do a free analysis, and they'll really go through that sprinkler system, and they're quite good.
Okay, did you remember what the name of?
I'm not sure, because it would just switch to, Wise
did it.
Guys just
Wise
switched to
Guys?
something, but it's on our
That program
website.
just changed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you call the district tomorrow, then the staff will get that information for you.
Okay, it's just good to have them go ahead and come out and
Yeah,
see.
yeah, I'm
Okay.
good with anything.
Thank you, we
Thank
appreciate
Thank you,
it.
thank you very much. Thanks for listening to us.
Hopefully this is it.
Okay, item number 5, consider and take appropriate action to approve resolution 2017-0919A, amending the fiscal year 2017 budget. Staff, would you like to speak to this?
Well, I think Renee could probably speak to that as well as anybody. We're doing an end-of-the-year true-up, right? This was the 17
Right.
budget.
I had basically passed it off to Stephen, but that's fine. We'll talk about it. The highlighted areas are where we made changes. If there's something specific in water or wastewater that we don't know the answer, you might need to ask Carl or Mike. But, so basically, we had prior year reserves, right, that we removed?
Yep.
Okay,
You want me to run through it?
it's not highlighted. Yeah, go ahead.
Let's highlight on my hair. Yeah. All right, so we'll run through here. We had at the end of the year, we're gonna have a surplus, the way it looks like it's gonna finish out this fiscal year. So we went ahead and removed the 295, 408 prior year reserves that we used as a plug number to become even the last time we did an amendment. That number covered a few things that we had to get done, like the bathroom, the LAS, some of the stuff that was carried over from the prior fiscal year. So we removed that, zeroed that out, so we don't use anything prior. All 3 departments, we reduced the salaries down. So I'm gonna kind of give you a scope of everything. We reduced the salaries down. This was due for positions in different departments all being vacant and open at different parts of the year. We were able to reduce some of that down. With that also came certifications that we didn't need. The engineering for water was moved a little bit, so we took out 30,000 for there. That has to do with some of it going to capital instead of going to engineering, which becomes, as we move down, one of the biggest impacts that we changed was 500,000 in wholesale water. We slightly discussed this last time, on the last meetings we had, that we over projected water sales and water usage, with that being the cost of wholesale water. So that was removed. So we moved 500,000 of that down. Fuel and lube for both departments were also reduced. That has to do with the cost of fuel isn't as high as it was previous years and previous data that we had. Am I going too fast for anybody? Or am I good?
Well, I've got some questions. Keep going.
Okay. Well, if you want to stop me, go ahead.
No, keep going. I would distract you at this point.
Okay. Going down the list here, we have a few things. Some of the stuff that we did change in wastewater that did go up. Sorry, am I in wastewater? Yeah, in wastewater that did go up. For instance, would be some of the lab analysis, do some additional testing on there. Like I said, a few little things here and there that did change. Maintenance and repairs. That's due to the SEP. As we go farther down, the annual fees for the TCQ, fees and permits, and then going farther down, once again, fuel and lube, chemicals was changed due to NBR, the testings that was done on those. Capital outlay was changed a little bit. We were actually reduced it down to 200,000 due to not doing the Oakmont sewer. So that was 200,000 that was able to pull out of there. Once again, going down to the admin section here, a few different things here. The software and support. What we did basically is we changed some of the hardware. Instead of buying some hardware, we actually moved down to software and support. We had to upgrade our server for STW software there. Our independent labor has increased quite a bit. That's due to salaries decreasing with the new general manager. Being a little different there in the category. Professional outside services, there was a small change in there, mostly due to, M3 was the same, but due to, we moved back to the original cost in there due to new gens that we used there. Sorry, I'm just kind of going through this. And then going down to legal was changed a little bit due to what's the true up and what we actually have for legal. So all in all, at the very end, it gives us a little bit of surplus, giving our revenue stays relatively the same. We have 2 more months of revenue still coming in because we are still being a month behind as far as what we're capturing. Any questions?
Certainly.
I'm sorry, the expenses for the water, sorry.
The, talked about decreasing the expense for water.
Yes.
You would also need to decrease, and I don't see that occurring, the revenue incoming. So what I'm saying here is when you get to the bottom, your number's not accurate because you said I'm not going to spend the money, but you're not going to have it as revenue either, and you're still counting it as revenue as I see what's going on here.
Which line are you on, Bill?
I'm on page 39 of the packet, and I'm on 135-47000 water.
So I see there's a $300,000 reduction in revenue. Is that accounting for water, addressing concern that Bill raised? Because I agree with him, if you don't sell the water, you're obviously not going to get the revenue that would have come from selling the water. So there needs to be a commensurate reduction on revenue.
And then you also would have a commensurate reduction in electricity, because if you're not buying the water and pumping the water to sell the water, then the electricity amount also goes down.
Well, electricity is a very hard topic we actually, due to that department, yes, but due to electricity in another department, this isn't going to be, this number here was more for us to get closer to the bottom line number that we have here. We talked about doing amendments towards the very end of the year once all the numbers are actually in. Some things that we have are 2 months off, some things are a month off, so we're trying to narrow everything down a little bit more as we go along. But yeah,
Conceptually, I think you would agree with what I've said.
I agree.
Okay. let's see. The, yeah, I see a wholesale water there, $500,000 hit. Okay, and then I see on 135-65005-010, fuel and lube. We didn't get the schedules to go with this, but it says pulled $8,000 for water tank inspection contract, amended for overestimate. I was wondering how we wound up with a water tank inspection contract and fuel and lube.
That was something that was done in the first amendment that we did.
Okay, so that was an error, just an error.
What was remaining from, you know more about the first amendment?
The fuel tank, there was a final PAX mixer payment that was not budgeted, I believe.
Okay, but it went into fuel and
That
lube?
was $8,000 and something dollars, but, I
Well,
don't.
it was pulled out to, if I remember right, we tried to move, at that time, we were moving expenses out that we didn't need into other expenses that we needed. And this is for the first amendment that we did.
So what you're saying is in the First Amendment, you put the water tank inspection contract under fuel and
No,
lube?
we removed the 8,000.
Okay.
We took it from the expense from the fuel because it was overinflated from there. So that was removed, that 8,000 was removed from there. That's where
I
you
got
get
you.
the.
And it went to the water tank?
Correct.
Gotcha.
correct,
So basically, you took an overage to pay off expense that you didn't budget for.
Correct.
Okay, I got it. Just had to understand it.
And then you see the parentheses at the very end, which says amended, overestimated. That was just what we did now. We removed it because we overshot it based on prices of fuel.
I was just trying to figure out what it was doing in there, but now I understand.
Yeah, we
what
were removing it, telling you where it was going to
you're
go.
do- The
where
money,
pulled from.
gotcha. Okay, thanks. The last one is, I must have slept since then, but what happened that we're not doing the Oakmont sewer?
I'm sorry?
We originally had money in to do, quote-unquote, do the Oakmont sewer.
Correct.
What happened that we are not doing the Oakmont sewer?
The reason why we actually budgeted that, because the engineer says it's easier to budget before you actually find the problem. We went and cambered it all and cleaned it all. We found no problems in it. In 15, we had a problem. We had two breaks that we had to fix that was over 70. And so we went ahead and put 200 in there to fix it before they broke. But we had no problems with it. We already cambered the whole thing, and there's no problems in it at all. So we are holding that 200,000. We're holding it back till we don't have to spend it.
Okay, so the long story short is there is not a problem on Oakmont.
Correct.
Thank you.
Any others? Director Rose?
Just a second. Nope, that's it.
I have just a short question.
Okay.
Stephen, this is not a change you made, it's just a short question. Under Board of Directors, the fifth line down, why is there a workman's compensation?
That is, that's if you were to walk
I
up
mean,
these
it's all
steps,
$32,
basically.
but what is it all about?
For the meetings. We pay for the work comp for the meetings, so what kind of risk you guys have. So if you were to fall at the meeting, it
Okay.
covers
All right.
you guys.
Thank you.
And it's like $32 a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw it was a TML invoice, I was just curious what it's for.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Can I have a motion?
I would move we accept the budget as amended.
Okay, we have a motion to approve Resolution 2017-0919A, amending the fiscal year 2017 budget. Do I have a second?
That's exactly what I meant to say.
I
Second.
thought so. As a second by Director Rose. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor, raise your hand. Seeing none opposed, motion passes. We'll move to item number 6, consider and take appropriate action regarding adoption of Resolution 2017-0919B, approving budget for fiscal year 2018. Staff?
Okay, we've modified, from when we first started the first, budget, workshop on August 2nd, and we've made many changes since that time. But basically, we got our final tax valuations in. So we feel very confident that this is a good budget. Everybody was involved in getting this done. So any questions anybody has?
Dre, I had one. And I should have been focused in on that other one a little more closely, but the Board of Directors expense $12,980. I know we go to the annual events, but I didn't think we spent that much.
Which line are you
Page-
talking about?
Page 1 of 29 of your new budget.
1 of 29?
This one here.
The front page,
Oh,
Page one.
okay.
Left-hand
12,000.
column, general fund,
12,980.
Board of
12,000?
Directors, 12,980.
Okay, if you look on page 4, you have you have publications for 150, dues and memberships for 600, that's AWBD. Meetings, 1,200, that's anything that we have to purchase for meetings here. Schools and training, that's basically when you go to AWBD for both of those each year, whoever goes. Travel and per diem, same thing, AWBD, hotel rooms, mileage, tickets. And then miscellaneous is 2,000. So basically, that's your $12,980. If you compare and look at where we are in August of this year, we've spent $6,177. So it's possible that that may be high. It really depends on how many people go to AWBD.
Well, I think we talk about going AWBD, I think one of the training items that I think new directors should have would be to go that initial director training that AWBD does for new directors. When I went, I found it very beneficial. And my experience from being on town council, went to a council-related one with TML when I was new on the council, got a lot out of that. So to me, that's one item that I think we need to, when we do have new directors, I think that's a necessary expense.
I'm gonna make a motion to approve resolution number 2017-0919B for the 2018 budget, to approve the 2018 budget.
We have a motion by Director Hayes to approve resolution number 2017-0919B, the budget for fiscal year 2018. Do I have a second? I'll second it. Seconded by Vice President Wilson. Any other questions or comments?
I have some. First of all, when I went through this particular budget compared to the budget that we went through at our last meeting, I found things in here that had changed that I was not familiar with. At least my notes didn't carry the changes. One of the things I want to talk about is on page 51, item 135-49035, says prior year reserves. This budget shows bringing in $125,897 from prior year reserves. We've had a lot of discussions about the possible scarcity of our reserves and how we need a solid reserve policy. I'm not comfortable passing a budget that pulls in money from a prior year reserves and makes it part of a budget. It's one thing to do it now. It's entirely something else to find yourself out there in the middle of a fiscal year and say, this isn't looking right, I need to pull money in out of reserves. So as a going-in point, I quite frankly can't get there.
So this is the 125,897?
Yes.
And what page
Now-
you on, Bill?
Page, if you flip this open, it would be.
He said page 51, so I'm having trouble finding
Yeah,
it.
but
page-
he's
Page
going on
2.
here.
I'm having
Yeah.
trouble
But it's-
finding it on here.
Oh, go to page
It's
50.
page 2 of the handout.
Now, there's something else I want to, as I mentioned this item, I could tie this one with another item here in a minute, but we just raised the wastewater rates. That rate increase, I do not believe is in this budget. Am I correct in that?
The wastewater revenue was given to us by Chris.
And it was predicated on which number? The current or the half?
I couldn't tell you.
Current. So, by adopting the half rate, we have increased the amount of revenue going into this budget by, what was that number? 300?
$117,000, roughly.
Okay? So, and that doesn't show in the budget as we look at it. So, one, I don't like that one. The next thing that I found was a new item, which is good. 135,000, it's at the very bottom of general fund reserves. It's a reimbursement from 2.42 revenue bond for engineering.
Okay, you have to, where are you?
It's now at the bottom, just down the page from there. Drop down about 6-8 lines. It's the very last one. It says 135,000.
Last item in that box.
Yeah, last
Okay.
item in the major box. Okay, that's a new item that I found, and that's good. That was a good add. I found water engineering, and it's in water, it's 135,55005-10 engineering. That number was originally $15,000. I suspect that that's an engineering amount increase for,
That's the same 260,000 expense, and up in the revenue is reimbursement from the revenue bond. Once we get that revenue bond, we will reimburse it back to ourselves, which nets to a zero effect on this fund, because we will have our construction money at that point to reimburse back.
so that's the 15,000 difference is the original number of 15,000 we
Right.
had in here. But
Right.
now we've got the 260 coming in, and it's going out through
Right.
engineering.
Plus the
Got it.
15 is to the 275.
Okay, thank you. Now, let's see what we're at. That's that one. Going to the next page. I'm on, it's page 52, but it's the one that has wastewater partway down, but I'm still in the water part of the equation. I show down there toward the bottom, short-term debt principal and short-term debt interest.
Yes.
Both of those are new items.
Yes. That is for the vac truck and the 2 wastewater vehicles to be done through a 5-year note after we've gotten TCEQ approval, instead of expensing the whole capital outlay in this year.
Okay, so
We
let me ask about that. A 3-year note we can do internally in-house, I believe. Is that correct?
The 3-year note's not subject to TCEQ approval.
So, but if we go with a 5-year note, we have to go to TCEQ to get permission?
Or a revenue note, or revenue bonds, this may be structured as a lease purchase agreement, which would not be subject to TCEQ approval.
Carmen?
Well, we're having this discussion about trying to get the financing terms to flange up with the life expectancy of the underlying asset.
Okay.
As a concept. So, every time we issue a bond through TCEQ and the Texas Water Development Board, we have to go get TCEQ and AG opinions on it. We're anticipating having a second lunch with one of our banks and talking about the possibility of just having a revolving credit facility for these types of investments. Go get it approved once, and then, then it's available for us to smooth out these big jumps in capital expenditures associated with vehicles. That tends to be the biggest one, backhoes, that sort of thing.
Okay.
Vector trucks are pretty pricey.
And here again, the point would be that it would have been nice to have had the reserves to cover them.
Right. Well, if you,
the fund.
if you can, cash fund those, that's great.
Yeah.
Doing it, financing them actually has the effect of stabilizing rates by themselves, because you're smoothing it out over a period of
Yes.
time.
Okay, and that did increase the, those items did increase the subtotal on water by roughly $300,000. Okay, so that means that water's buying the vac truck?
Half and half.
Half and half, okay?
It's being split out.
Okay.
Actually, I think I had it.
Okay,
But yeah, the vac truck is like split, but the two vehicles is 100% wastewater. So overall, the loan is less than 50/50.
okay. And I see that now again down in wastewater. And the wastewater, actually the total wastewater amount went down by $40,000. See if I have any others. You talked about IT hardware, we've got that. It's a small change. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about, let's see, legal. This comment that legal was reduced due to rollback rate. That's in the non-departmental.
Yes.
We originally budgeted, I believe, don't remember what the original budget was. I was thinking 150, but are we saying at this point that amount is total for the general manager, or I'm sorry, the general counsel, or is there more funds located someplace else for general legal?
I think what he's asking is you got part of legal in the water rate, part in the tax
We
rate.
did at one time. We moved some of the legal fees into capital outlays
Yeah.
under wastewater.
Because of the SOA and, yeah.
Yeah.
That all moved across. I see that.
We don't have it in here, right? And then we reduced the 1 to 137, that's for general counsel, and then a little bit of extra float there.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay, so I talked, if I go back up here a couple pages in the very beginning, I talked about the number coming over from prior year reserves.
Yes,
That's 120, call it 126,000.
right.
The other thing is that I have an issue with, I have an issue with the O&M general fund tax. My issue on this particular tax is, one, I'd like to get the taxes ultimately for the MUD reduced to zero and have everything through rates. The problem with this particular general fund tax is it winds up, and this is one that, in my view, we could change. This one taxes people that do not receive services from the MUD. We've had that discussion before.
Yes, and I don't
Yes.
want to have it again tonight.
Okay, so I just want to hold that point. I don't want to do the discussion. We talked about 126. This particular tax, O&M tax, went from .00438 to .00788. The total net value on that tax is $176,746. If you take the $176,000 and add it to the amount that was brought in from reserves, that wastewater increase rate covers this and still leaves a plus value. So what I'm saying is we could eliminate the O&M general fund tax. We can not bring across reserve funds. we still increased the amount of money coming in because of the increase in wastewater, and we still get to develop the rate stabilization fund based on the increase, the holding steady on the water rate.
Okay, so I guess one, we're talking futuristic events that haven't happened yet. As far as the rate stabilization fund, we can't approve a budget based on something happening in the future that may or may not be approved by the board. But on the O&M rate, what led to that increase?
It's been that way for 20 years, been approved by the auditor for 20 years as a tax item. It could just as easily have been a water item. This year, Renee made part of it a water item because of the rollback situation. I don't see any need to change what we've done for 20 years.
I'm just curious what led to the change from, I think it was .004 to .007. Is it set at a certain ratio to cover a certain subset of
It's
costs?
supposed to cover non-departmental, Department 39, which has those 5 things: legal, auditing, appraisal, and then the cost of the admin of the taxes for Denton County.
Okay.
But that's always been what the O&M tax covers, the O&M part. Then we have the fire department part that is, together is really the O&M rate, but it's broke out between non-departmental and fire. So in previous years, last year, and I believe the year before, maybe even further, the full Department 39 was not covered in taxes because of the rollback rate. So this year we were able to cover everything with, and still be within the rollback rate. So that's the difference. We're covering what we need to cover this year where we hadn't been able to in prior years.
The basic discussion is how you want to fund it, is basically it.
Yeah, I mean, okay, understand. Is there any other questions or comments? With the not reflecting the revenue from the rate increase that we've done, and trying to minimize the, this has to be approved before the end, and we don't, I'm not interested in that.
You have to adopt the budget before you can set your tax rates.
Yeah,
Now, we can go ahead and bump the revenue up in sewer based on Chris's deal.
Can you do that now?
Well, y'all can say based on.
Oh, I see what you're
yeah,
saying.
Okay.
yeah.
We can remove the prior year reserve because that's only in there to make the
Make the balance.
budget balance. We
And
can
where would the
remove that.
additional revenue go? The extra 200 grand?
It would show a higher revenues. It's okay for revenues to be higher than expenses. You just can't have expenses
Expenses be
higher than revenue. Okay? So that can be done. You can make your motion based on those 2 things.
I think we have a motion on the floor.
And then these things are water and sewer rates. The taxes are taxes.
Yeah.
The motion on the floor was to approve the budget as presented.
Yeah.
If you want to make those 2 changes, make an amendment to the motion.
I would like to, if it's okay with you guys, well, you want to amend yours? Or you want me to do it?
Go ahead.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to amend your motion to have the budget reflect the increase in wastewater revenue, and then have it reduce the carry forward of the reserve from 2017 and into 2018.
I'd second.
Okay? Any other questions or comments there?
I just want to make sure what you're doing is taking the reserve of amount of 125,897 and turning that to 0.
Correct.
Okay.
Can you just
I've got
repeat
one
that?
question.
Yes.
With respect to the revenue projection for wastewater, when will the wastewater rates that were approved tonight become effective?
October 1st.
So next month. Okay. And then I think Chris mentioned he recommended the board reconsider it in April. Is the assumption that
Yes.
we'll
Right.
carry it through the entire year?
Right.
Yes. Because of the readjustment of the volumetric winter averaging, yeah.
We have
Yeah,
to
I didn't know if the
We do it
April
anyway.
could change your budget assumption, so it sounds like we're not going to.
I can't envision.
Okay.
Can you
Okay,
Truth of the matter is, come April, and we take a new look at the winter averaging, we also can take a look at the whole budget.
we could look at the whole thing as well.
I
if we
just,
were
if
short.
there's something coming, I thought I'd point it out so you could consider it now.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, first we'll take a vote on the amendment. All in favor of modifying the budget to increase the wastewater revenue to be equal to that of the rate adjustment and zeroing out the carry forward of, I think, $125,819.
97. 125,897.
125,897.
There's the half rate adjustment.
Yeah, it's the half, the half 12% rate increase. Any, hearing no questions or comments, all in favor, raise your hand. Okay, motion passes. We'll go back to the original amendment. Original motion. All in favor of passing budget 2017-0919B for fiscal year 2018
As amended.
as amended? All in favor of that? All opposed? So we have 3 in favor: Director Hayes, Director Thomas, Director Wilson, and Director Rose was opposed. Motion passes. Okay. Next item, consider and take appropriate action to adopt rate order 2017-09198, amending water and sewer rates and set an effective date of October 1st, 2017.
Well, there sets the rate for wastewater. Where can we see the water rates, Renee?
The water rates are not changing.
Okay.
So basically, on page 88 of the packet, where it has the sewer rates, no, that's a pool, commercial sewer, yeah. Page 88, the 0 to 4,000, this will change to that column for the half, the 12% column, so the new rates will be inserted here in the,
Okay, I'll make a motion that the sewer rate be adopted at fixed charge of 1960, 0 to 4,000 at $3.18, 4,001 to 8,000 at $4.51, 8,000 to 12,000 at $6.43, 12,001 and over at $9.14, commercial at $5.48, and that the water rates remain the same.
Okay, we have a motion by Director Hayes to increase the wastewater rates to the half, which is 12% increase across the board. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Director Rose. Are there any comments? Hearing none. All in favor, raise your hand. Motion passed unanimously.
Before you continue, there was I had previously, and you and I had put in a request to make some changes in the verbiage in this document 2 months ago. We
Okay.
put it on hold until we got it here tonight, and I'd like to talk about those changes as well as a little cleanup on this document. So if everybody could go to page 88 of your packet, I'll show you what I'm talking about. This will be
There's a handout, Bill, it's handed
okay.
out.
There's also, when I get to that, there's more besides that, Lori, but you also have a handout, and I'll talk about the handout in a minute. But if you'll go to page 88 to begin with.
Okay.
Just changing the rates is a good start on this, but on page 88, if you look at 202A, it starts off saying residential sewer rates, and it goes effective October 1st, 2016. Starting with that effective October 1st, 2016, I want to delete down through the end of the first line, which says effective April 1st, 2017, Trophy Club Municipal Utility District Number 1, the district will begin. I want to delete that section, and I want to replace it with the verbiage the district uses. And then if you go to the last line in that paragraph,
Bill, I'm sorry, you're on page 88.
88,
And which paragraph again, please?
you started with 202, and you see where it says residential sewer rates effective October 1st? That we can delete that stuff. We don't need it. It's confusing. And we delete it down to the first line there where it says effective April the 1st, 2017, ... the district will begin. Delete it through begin. Okay, then if you go down to the last sentence in that paragraph, it says the average consumption will be analyzed annually and new rates take effect the 1st of April of each year. There's a possibility of a confusion with that, in that a person could look at that and say, wait a minute, that says the rate's only going to won't take effect until April. And we're just in the process of changing rates now. So in that way, I looked at this and said, this can be confusing because we're really not talking about consumption changing rates. We're talking about changing averages. So what I want to do is change the word rates in that sentence and new rates to new averages to be very clear about what happens here. So I would like to make a motion. Let's see, there's just a little bit more.
Bill, would it make sense to say winter averages?
You could do that too.
Really clear.
Okay. And new winter averages take effect. I would agree to that.
Entirely, so that it reaches the average consumption will be analyzed annually and take effect the 1st of April each year?
That too.
That seems simpler.
I'm sorry, what'd you say again, please?
Just consumption will be analyzed annually and take effect the 1st of April each year.
We can do that.
Okay.
I think that's what you were trying to accomplish.
Yes. Okay, then if you go down, just a little bit further down the page, it says there's effective July 18th, 2017. You can scratch that. And you can go down to, in that paragraph where that double asterisk is at, and scratch all behind the double asterisk.
Didn't we set a date and a time frame at the last meeting as to when they have to do this?
Yeah. I want to, that's the next thing I want to talk about. And then the effective 1st April 2017 is obviously going to change with, to be October the 1st, 2017, with the new rates below it. I would like to make those changes. And then I'll come back and talk about what we did earlier. So I'll move to make those changes, I guess. That would be a way to do it.
Okay, we have a motion to make the changes Director Rose offered as suggested. Do we have a second?
Yeah, I'll second it.
All right, that's been seconded by Director Thomas. I guess the only question I would have is, when we do this in the future, for me, it's a whole lot easier to see this on paper,
Oh, absolutely.
rather than on here do this, on here do that. It's very, very difficult to follow.
I'll help you out in the next one.
Bill, are you gonna come back to this one with
Yes.
double asterisk?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Any other
Seconded.
questions or comments?
Who seconded that?
Director Thomas.
Okay.
Seeing none, all in favor, raise your hand. Motion passes.
Okay, now, as Director Thomas alluded, to come back with the double asterisks. The situation is this. we wanted to get information in for the purposes, information on correct winter averaging for the purposes of budgeting. Okay, that was the reason that we had the 15th of March date, because it was going to be effective the 1st of April, and we needed those averages for a calculation. It was important the first year that we did that. Now there's a question about, really, do we need that information? Because my understanding is when you look at the percentage involved, it was a very small percentage. I think
it was less than 1%.
Like 8 homes, I think.
Yeah, so the variation wasn't much. So the question then becomes, do we need a date? So I've got two proposals here to do this. One of which, if you allow, and the question that came up before is because we had a date, and the question then become what happens if they submit it after the date? How are you going to handle it? And we didn't have a policy on how you're going to handle it. And we wanted to allow the general manager latitude, because we didn't want to handle it to the board, and we, quite frankly, I don't think we should be handling it to the board. So you got two options, two proposals that I've got, one of which totally removes a required date and turns it into strongly encouraged, which is the proposal number 2 that you have before you here on a handout. The other one, proposal 1, and let me go with proposal 2. Proposal 2 turns it over to the general manager, but doesn't give him any guidance on exactly how he handles those when he gets them, how he's going to adjust the amount. Proposal 1, the real key part, gets down in the middle of it. If you go about halfway down, the first part of both of those are the same, but in proposal 1 it says the general manager or a duly authorized representative may adjust the metered water usage in determining the winter average. All requests for sewer average reductions submitted no later than March 15th shall receive full credit for any approved winter averaging adjustment. Okay, so now you're back to where you're required a submission, a date. That gets us our information as we would like to have it. Continuing, requests for sewer average reductions submitted after March 15th and on or before June 15th shall receive 50% credit for any approved winter average adjustment for the previous months affected by the adjustment, and full credit for subsequent months. Requests for sewer average reductions submitted after June 15th and approved shall only apply to the months submitted and subsequent months until a new winter average is established. So now you're using a financial incentive to report them, and it also gives the general manager guidance on exactly how the refund will be accomplished or be credited. So,
I guess for me, I think we're digging too deep into operations.
okay.
I would rather let the general manager use his discretion. Here, in this case, he uses discretion on what's appropriate rather than telling them, you ought to give this percentage. That would be my personal view on it. I don't want to run the district. I want to let staff run the district like they're being paid to do. Any other questions or comments here?
Somebody make a motion, and would the general manager like to make any comment?
Well, I just actually did one of these. We'll talk about it in closed session. So the first one that has happened during my, 45 days here now, 50 days. So for me, simplicity is good in this regard. You know, last year was the first year that you've established this program, and so I think, you know, it being an issue is going to be really small going forward. I like keeping it as simple as we can. The current language is actually workable, as I see it. It does have that date. You know, if I got one on the 25th of April, I'd probably consider accepting it anyway. So I don't know that I have that latitude here where it says must. But outside of that, I'd probably say I'm going to use my discretion and do it anyway.
Well, the way the last one it said, the last one has total, it gives latitude to adjust, establish, and winter averaging sewer rates. Customers are encouraged to submit.
Right. So,
No later than March 15th.
So
So
I'm-
there is no deadline. They're just encouraged to submit them prior to that so that we can use them for budgeting purposes.
so I'm good with the current or with proposed number 2,
Okay.
which does take out that little, like it must be this,
Yeah.
you know, so that,
I'll move the adoption of proposal 2 to be added to the end of the, well, it's actually proposal 2 to replace the paragraph above the sewer rates.
We have a motion to have proposal 2 to replace the language above the sewer rates in
I'll second
rate
that.
order 09198.
I'm gonna
The
second that
paragraph.
because I like encouragement better than I do must.
And
Like-
it's seconded by Director Thomas. Any other questions or comments?
It also gives a general manager all the flexibility in the world he needs.
For clarification, that is to replace the paragraph, not,
Yes.
yeah.
The- re-
It
Replace the paragraph.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Vote, all in favor?
Thank you,
Motion
gentlemen.
passed unanimously. Okay. We are on number 8. Consider take appropriate action regarding order number 2017-0919B, fixing and levying Trophy Club Municipal Utility District 1 operation and maintenance tax rate for 2017 tax year.
I make a motion that we, that the tax rate for operations and maintenance be set at .00788 for 2018.
We have a motion by Director Hayes to set the Municipal Utility District 1 Operation and Maintenance Tax Rate for tax year 2017 to spot 07658.
Well, is it, did the paragraph read 17? Is that supposed to read?
It
The
should be-
total is actually .7658, which is up at the top.
07658.
So
I
the
think it's-
788 is the O and M, and the .06870 is the fire, and together is the .07658 that we're looking for.
And
That's
what they
the
want you to
rate.
approve, Jim, is the 07658.
But I think his point is, it says 2017 when it should say 2018.
No.
It's tax year
2017
2017 for fiscal year 2018.
2018. Okay.
Okay.
See, they're looking for him to approve that amount, not this amount. That
Well,
amount
that's
makes
what-
up
that's-
these two.
no,
He-
that's-
His motion was to do
Well,
that.
No, he said
the,
07658.
chart on page 1 here
No, he said 078.
shows the top line
07658.
under tax rate summary identified as O and M.
Yes, but the O and M tax for Denton County is the O and M part, the .0788, the O and M plus the .06870 is also part of the O and M tax rate for fire.
Okay, you didn't make a separate paragraph.
It's in there, it's listed in
I
that
mean,
first
in
paragraph.
the agenda, I had assumed you were gonna make an approval of O and M, INS, and fire. But you didn't. You want me to call O and M including fire.
Right, that's the way it is.
Okay, I'll make the motion that the tax rate be set for O and M for 2017 at the total of .00788 plus .06870
For fire.
For fire.
for fire.
Director Thomas, you accept that?
I would accept that.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor? Director Wilson, Director Thomas, and Director Hayes. Pass it. All against?
It includes the
Director Rose?
.007.
Say again?
It includes that .007.
Okay. Okay, motion passes 3-1. Item number 9, consider and take appropriate action regarding order number 217-0919C, fixing and levying Trophy Club Municipal District 1 debt service tax rate for the 2017 tax year.
I make a motion to set the, what's it called, INS debt service tax rate for 2017 at .04363.
Second?
And we have a motion by Director Hayes and a second by Director Thomas to set the 2017-0919C debt service tax rate 2017 tax year to .04363. Any comments or questions?
We need to do a roll call on this, and we'll need to go back to the previous one and do a roll call. It's in the certificate of order.
Did he call for the vote?
I did a roll call. I said who opposed and who denied it.
Oh, as you read it out?
Not as I read it out, but as I announced who.
You want the names called out?
That's a roll call.
He did the roll call.
You did? Okay,
That's,
okay,
if you're for or opposed.
okay.
Yeah, does that cover the roll call, Tony, if you call out who voted for it and who voted against it? Does it have to be part of the initial motion?
The reference to a roll call in paragraph 2 of the certificate, if that's what we're referring to, is at the beginning of the meeting, who's present for purposes of establishing the quorum.
Okay,
Later in the certificate, where it refers to the ayes and the nays, that's the vote, which I think we.
good, thank you.
Yeah, motion in a second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor? Director Wilson, Director Thomas, Director Hayes, approve. All against? Director Rose? Okay, we have item number 10, consider and take appropriate action regarding approval of amendment of district information form, including notice of purchaser form.
This is basically the form that we have to do every year. Anybody that buys property in Trophy Club, they are provided this information. It states what our tax rate is. It talks about issued debt and what the outstanding tax debt is, and in our case, there is no unissued tax debt. So this is filed with Denton County each year after this meeting.
Okay. Can I get a motion?
I move to approve the amendment to district information form, including the notice to purchaser form.
Second?
I have a motion by Director Rose to approve the amendment to the district information form, including the notice of purchaser form. It was seconded by Director Thomas. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor? Motion passes unanimously. We'll move to item 11. Consider and take appropriate action regarding Resolution 2017-0919C, approving the 2017 tax roll for Trophy Club Municipal Utility District 1.
This basically lists the valuations of Tarrant County and Denton County taxes and the amount of the levy based on the tax rate.
I make a motion to approve Resolution 2017-0919C, approving fiscal year 2017 tax roll for Trophy Club Municipal District Number 1.
Okay, we have a motion to approve Resolution 2017-0919C, approving the 2017 tax roll for Trophy Club Municipal Utility District 1. Do I have a second?
I'll second, because I have a question.
We have a second by Director Thomas. Questions or comments?
Renee, this most current set of data includes the final results after everyone has filed their request.
This is the most recent certified numbers. There's still some outstanding.
So this
but
this could change. Not a whole
Yeah,
lot.
I guess it could, but this is the certified numbers. This is what we go with.
Yeah.
So
The
during the
final-
year, there could be some supplements that they make adjustments
Did we
throughout the
do
year, but we
It always
adjust
goes
for
to
those as we
Right.
go.
Thank you.
These are the numbers,
Thank
We
you.
have some protests still outstanding.
yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, all in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Okay, item number 12, consider and take appropriate action regarding
Greg, could I just ask you, Renee, just it's a curiosity question. This total tax revenue is the total appraised value is higher, how much higher than last year?
I can't tell you that number just
If
right
you'd
off the
get that
top
for
of my
me, I'd
head.
appreciate it.
Okay.
Just at your convenience. I'd like to know how this year stacked up against last year.
Okay. Item number 12, consider and take appropriate action regarding annual review of district investment policy and investment strategies, including appointing a district investment officer, and order number 2017-0919D, adopting a amended and restated investment policy. Staff?
I can address this one. As the board knows, it's subject to the Public Funds Investment Act. That act requires that all funds of the district be invested only in authorized investments, which are defined under the act. The act also requires that the board designate one or more investment officers, and that it review the policy and the investment strategies set forth therein each year, and record any changes through by order or resolution. The draft policy before you has two proposed revisions based on legislation passed during the 2017 regular legislative session. The first is the legislature adopted a bill which adds interest-bearing accounts as an authorized investment. Most political subdivisions were already doing so, but the board formally, the legislature formally passed legislation acknowledging that. And the second one was the legislature amended the requirement that investment firms have to certify compliance with the investment policy. And so this policy has been revised to reflect that change.
Okay. Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none. All in favor? Raise
You
your
have a
hand.
You
motion?
got to have a motion
Oh, there
first.
was a motion.
I move to approve Order 2017-0919D.
Oh, no, well, I apologize. Okay,
Bill just made the motion,
If I have a second?
okay.
and I'll second it.
There's a motion to approve the district investment policy and investment strategies, including appointing a district officer, and order 2017-0919D, adopting the amended for and restated investment policy. That was seconded by Director Thomas. Any other questions or comments?
Who is the investment officer?
The general manager.
Our manager.
And the Secretary Treasurer.
I don't think that's right.
I don't,
Yeah, we said that earlier. We said an earlier meeting.
I think we need to state it.
Yeah, I think we need to make that motion.
7.01 states the person serving as general manager is hereby appointed as the investment officer, and that language was just carried over from your prior policy, last year's policy.
Which paragraph, Tony?
It's in-
7.01,
Section what?
7.01, page
117.
17.
I'm sorry, I'm on page
Don't we have to
112,
state
which
the
is,
board
going down.
member?
117.
Don't we appoint a board member, just state that there's a board member also?
go to one step, keep going.
Under the statute,
701.
the board
Keep
can
going.
designate whoever it wants if, as a matter of policy,
Keep going.
That's
you said 701.
then the
you so
policy.
under your policy.
It's, yeah, I think it's in there, but I'd have to go back and read it.
About having more than one document addressing the same thing, but
Yeah.
That's a good
Your
point.
good point. And it's in this packet someplace.
I guess we'll get there shortly, depending on how this discussion goes.
I think the motion before the board is just for the policy. That was the motion I made, is to approve the policy.
Okay.
I didn't touch the officer issue.
Okay, there is a motion that's been put forward and by Director Rose, the second by Director Thomas. Any other questions or comments? All in favor? Okay, motion passes unanimously.
Now we need to appoint the district investment officers.
Well,
Like you
that's,
said, one of
that's
them's- one
done
of
in the
them's automatic.
policy.
One of them's done by policy.
Yeah,
But the policy, the board just considered appoints the GM as the investment officer.
Yes,
Yes.
this policy does. Now, the question is the revised bylaws. That would be their authority, because I think it's covered in there. We'll have to look it up when we get to it.
Yeah. One of the comments I made was about whether you want to
Exactly.
do it in that document. We can talk about that. But just to clarify, is the board good with the appointment of the GM
At this
as the
point,
sole investment officer?
yes.
that's the question. Right now,
I think that's the action that was just taken.
Yes, that was the action that was just taken. So we'll have to go back and look at the ethics policy and,
We're gonna
which
cover-
is, that's the
what
reason why I
we're-
said we'll get to that.
yeah.
Okay.
For
item
right,
num-
for right now, then we can discuss it and maybe come back. If we have to come back, we can come back.
Yeah.
Well-
Item number 13, consider and take appropriate action regarding order number 2017-0919, ECHO, adopting a cash reserve policy. Staff?
Well, let me ask Renee a question. The policy says we want to endeavor to reach 50% in a 5-year period, starting in 2015, October 1st, to be set aside each year. Now, 50% of the 5-year, see that, I believe that 50% is the highest fiscal budget, or the fiscal budget over a 5-year period. And if I'm not mistaken, haven't you shown in this budget 188,000 being set aside for cash reserves, or did I misread that?
Okay, originally, we set up the savings reserve account at Prosperity. We opened the account with $188,000, and we made deposits from water and wastewater of $200,000 each in fiscal year 2017. So we have $588,000 in that savings account now, plus interest. And then for fiscal year 18, we have set up the $200,000 each again in water and wastewater. So we will have an additional $400,000 that will go in.
Okay,
Of roughly $1 million if things go as planned.
Right.
At the end of the year.
Right.
and 50% of the budget's in the neighborhood of 9 million.
10.
10. So 50% is 5 million. If we got 1 million, that seems insufficient.
Well, you can only put in what you got.
Well,
We
you
don't
can-
have 5 million to put away.
No, we didn't propose to put it all in 1 year, but I don't think 200 each is sufficient. I think it ought to be more than, because we're going to be a long ways past 5 years before we get 50%.
Right.
And
Director, oh, I'm sorry, continue, Director Hayes.
I'm just saying, I know we've adopted the budget already, and I don't know how we would handle it if we wanted to increase this item. But maybe you're gonna have to put it off till next year, but I don't think 200 from water and 200 from wastewater is gonna hack it.
Director Rose?
From the research I've done, and I've shared a little bit of that with the general manager, I sent you one that I had from another municipal utility district. placer, but I can't remember where it was at. I don't think, I'm going to try and be kind. I don't think this reserve policy is well vetted. I don't think it covers the areas necessarily that it should cover. It's in my mind, it's too broad. It doesn't have, I mean, they're just, I'd pull another one up and go into the detail on it. But I think the 50, even, I mean, when you talk about the 50% number, you have to ask yourself, what are you really covering? If that 50% number is covering water that you didn't buy, you don't have reserves, you didn't sell it, you didn't buy it, you don't need to have a reserve for water you didn't buy. And so we need to be more particular and specific in our reserve policy, and that reserve policy should, as I mentioned earlier, cover rate stabilization. It should cover depreciation issues. It should talk about the GASB designations, I think. And what I'd really like to do is table this, and if nothing else, I'll volunteer to work with staff and bring back a policy that is more detailed, and that rather than throw a number in the air, you can look at and say, here's the justification for that number and how we get there.
There was a presentation at AWBD 6-7 years ago by one of the financial advisors in the Houston area about mature MUDs and what their cash reserves should be. And I don't remember if he broke it down into component parts or not, but I'm sure Jim could contact the AWBD office and ask them if they can lay their hands on a presentation. And I think it was Bill Fry that made that presentation.
I was going to say, if you'll speak to your financial advisor for purposes of the rating agencies, there's minimum criteria that the rating agencies want to see for purposes of giving you the best rating and therefore the lowest interest rate on your bonds. And I generally believe it's 6 months of your operating expenses, but speak to him in connection with the due diligence.
Yeah, see if they can, because they recommended 100% of cash expenditures in a given year. And we did not believe we could ever reach 100, so we put 50 in the policy.
But I think as part of your deliberation, you'll want to know what will give you the best bond rating possible, and your FA will be able to tell you.
I think we asked that question last time he was here, and he did say basically 50%. I have a question. One of the things that one of the concerns I have with this is we don't have a comprehensive, which mine is a little different from Bill. We have money going in a bunch of different places, and so this shows there's 600,000, but we have a number of GASB accounts where we're doing reserves, and I don't think that dollar amount is reflected. And so realistically, if something happened and we needed the money, then that money is also available to us.
I agree with you, and I would request that the accounting folks bring us a cash status
It's in the
report.
packet.
There is
Oh, is it in here?
It's the next to last page in the packet. Yeah, there's it's a very nice presentation. What I'd like, I'm going to move to table this, I think, and I'll touch bases with staff, if you don't mind, or I would like to be directed to work with staff on fleshing out another reserve policy.
Again, if I could chip in and just say that I actually don't think we ought to call it a reserve policy. This is aimed at, how we're managing the cash pieces of what we're doing. I think it fits better in a risk management policy because all of those funds are designed to be risk management of mitigation of some kind or another, whether it's loss of revenue, whether it's what's the deductible on our insurance policy we have. That's effectively where are we self-insured?
I'm amiable, just so long it covers all the pieces.
Okay.
Is there any driver that this has to be? It's required annually to push this up, or we're just okay?
Okay, is everyone comfortable with tabling this?
All right,
Made a motion to table
We
it.
need a motion to table this?
He made one, but
I think Bill
if
made
it's
it.
I
unanimous-
suggested it. I
Well, I think he
suggested
suggested that we table. I
either,
don't think he
either
made a
table or
motion.
take direction.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with tabling it and, having Bill Rose work with, staff to, create a appropriate policy by whatever name
More thorough.
deemed necessary.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah,
Fine.
okay. We will go to item 14, consider and take appropriate action regarding approval of rate order 2017-0919F, adopting Trophy Club Municipal District 1 bylaws, organization procedures, travel expenditure policy, professional service policy, management information policy, and code of ethics. Director Rose and Thomas, you have the floor.
Oh, I was going to let Director Thomas speak. Okay, so no formal presentation here. Let me pull that up.
Bill, while you're doing that, Bill and I came down here for about 3 to 4 hours and met with John, and we took everything that y'all asked for. Tony took all of your suggestions and folded them into what you see tonight. We then ran it back by Carmen to see if he was okay with it, and with his blessings, it was sent out to all of you.
I'll make it just a little bit longer story. The board directed, we had one before us, and the board directed that it be sent to legal counsel to look at it for statute impacts upon it. And legal counsel sent us back one, and it was, good thing it was in blue,
It had some changes,
because it bled blue.
had some suggestions.
And along with it, with the email came the comment that, you know, these are suggestions, and you can accept them or not accept them or do with them what you want. And I kind of looked at that and went, wait a minute, that's not exactly what I remember the tasker was. So I went back to counsel and said, tell me what statutes were changed. And so he promptly sent me back another document that had just the statutes. So at that point, Director Thomas and I came in, and we took the one which was just the statute changes, and took the one with all the changes and went through it and said, yes, yes, no. Don't think there's an understanding here. No, we want to go this way, not. And so we walked through the document, and what you see is the summation of that. And if I just move away, here's a second here. I'll hold it up just a second. This is the document that I printed out, and you see the blue on the first page? The rest of the pages are not quite as bad. But anyway, what you see before you are the items that Director Thomas and I had agreed to go into the document. And I think, and I appreciate council's assistance, not only in the change of the statutes, some of the other items were very good, and I appreciate that you pointed out that it is, in fact, bylaws. And the statute says we can do bylaws.
And I will tell you, Bill and I went through it literally, line by line by line, paragraph top to bottom. And if there was any question in our minds, we tended to favor and side with Tony's recommendations, since he was our legal counsel.
I guess two comments from my end. One is this policy in Article 3 provides that the board will appoint an investment officer. And that's okay, but just one comment is you've got a separate investment policy, and I don't think they're inconsistent, but you've already got a policy which provides for appointment of an investment officer, and that's fine. I just want to make sure you're aware of that, to make sure you never do something that's inconsistent.
Okay, here it is.
Tony, I was looking at the words on that while we were talking about this a minute ago, and it's not saying we will appoint one. It says if we don't already have one,
Yeah.
the board can appoint.
Yeah.
Well, we have one. It's general manager.
Okay, and that's correct. The very last one. It says if another officer or staff designee of the board has not been named investment officer, the secretary shall be.
Yeah.
If another
shall be.
officer or staff designee of the board, so we have a staff, we have done that.
Right.
So that,
Yeah.
we have done that.
I think what he's saying is that it's not inconsistent, he's simply pointing out that we have two policies that addresses the same issue, and just wondering whether or not that makes sense. So I don't think he's saying that they create a issue, he's just simply pointing out that they're duplicating.
Okay, let me ask you a question then. Would it be council's advice that we strike that last sentence in the bylaws on 307 that says if another officer or staff designated board has not been named, the secretary treasurer shall be?
My preference, and I don't think the committee agrees with this, would be that the investment policy designate who is the investment officer of the district, and by law, the board has to review the investment policy annually so it can consider who will be the investment officer at that time. And that Article 3 address officers of the board. The board may or may not appoint an investment officer who is a member of the board, but I'd rather see the investment officer designated in the investment policy, and by law, the investment policy must specify who is the investment officer. So I don't see much purpose or benefit by putting it in the
So
document.
long story short, delete it. If I'm
So-
reading you
But it would
correctly.
also require a change to 3.01, which says the board will appoint an investment officer.
Don't we do that by the investment policy? 3.01 officers.
Yes.
It
I mean,
doesn't
you
s-
do,
yeah,
but
that-
again,
okay.
I would separate the two entirely.
I think he's saying strike all remits to investment officer.
You've got a separate policy which annually you have to designate an investment officer, so why even cover it?
And 3.08, I don't know if you looked at that, actually kind of says that shall be the investment officers.
I think we're boiling the ocean. These two statements in this thing have no conflict with the other thing whatsoever. And the fact that you've got it in two different places, who cares? Says the same thing. I mean, we're trying to boil the ocean on this thing. We've been working on this thing for 15 months now. For God's sakes, let's move on.
Well, I would, the only other issue or concern I'd raise with it is
Okay, wait a minute.
where is it?
I mean,
In L, where it says,
which one?
L on
L under
page
what?
143,
Yeah, but under section what?
under section 4.02. Provide staff support for president and the board and the directors of the board.
402?
Under section 402, item L. If you go to page,
405.
405.
Yeah, it's not 402. 402's only got A and B.
okay, 405.
405.
Okay. All right, L.
Okay, L, it says, the general manager shall provide support, staff support services for the president and board of directors. I don't think there should be a differentiation for president, in that item.
So you would
It's
delete,
just simply the
For
board
the-
of directors.
okay, for the,
That's fine.
right, okay.
Yeah.
All right, so you would delete that.
That was the only thing
All right, so,
Yeah, I mean, it says the same thing.
okay, so do we have a motion to approve?
I would make a motion to approve the policy as presented with two changes. One, removing all references to investment officer from this policy, as well as in 3.0, 3.7, and 3.8, as well as striking on the 4.5, section L, staff providing support services to the president.
That'll work.
Do I have a second? Yes, ma'am?
I just need to ask one thing for clarification. In the policy, the proposed policy, it
Lauren, can
calls-
you pull your mic down, please? I can't
In the
hear you.
policy, the proposed policy, it calls legal counsel the district attorney, and I have concerns regarding that, just because in a lot of our policies, it regards to ethics complaints or any complaints, it'll say the you file them with the district attorney. A district attorney is an elected position that works for a county or the federal government.
Oh,
And
it's
we have
just a
actually
general
had,
counsel.
in the past, when we use that verbiage, we have had people, when we had it in our document, people filed things with the county when they were, I mean, it ends up to be a little bit of a mix-up because a district attorney is an elected official position.
My question is that still in here, or was that
It
stuff that
says
was taken?
district attorney in your
in-
proposed document.
Okay, where at?
Hang on, let me go to it.
I'm gonna clean this thing up.
Looking at it. It is under 409, and I had hoped that we could call, say, district legal counsel or
I think
general legal
counsel.
counsel. That's what we've been doing, is appointing general legal counsel, and right now that is Tony Corbett. And if we could identify the position as general legal counsel, we know that that is our regular legal counsel.
Okay,
I would, let's see.
I just think it would be good for term clarification.
So the change of the title would be District General Counsel in the first sentence.
Just
it
be
says.
general
also,
legal counsel.
And the second line is,
And
well.
the
it
second
would-
sentence, the District General Counsel, there's three,
Yes.
it'd be maybe three
Three
changes.
changes.
Could just remove district from it and just put general legal counsel. 'Cause they're appointed by the board.
Okay, I'd like to, I never got a second, did I?
You gonna add this?
I'm now
to
have
it?
a,
I want to add this to it, that we modify section 4.9, any reference to district attorney, to say district general counsel.
I'll second that,
All
the whole thing.
All, the whole thing, he said the whole thing.
the
Are
the
there any
title
other
is going,
questions
the
or
title
comments?
is gonna be District General Counsel?
Correct.
Okay, on page 145, you call him now as District Legal Counsel. You might want to keep the same verbiage.
Yeah.
I thought you were, Lori had requested dropping district and have it as general
General legal
legal
counsel.
counsel.
Okay,
Taking district out to avoid any kind of, but that's your call.
but we still have the issue where you said in which section?
On 145, section C, emergency meetings, you call it out by District Legal Counsel.
Yeah.
So we wanna
I'm sorry,
change
what
that
section
too.
again, not page, what section?
It is 504.
That's gonna require a find and replace, frankly, for the document. Is a quick way to do it.
That's C.
Okay, so I'll amend my motion again to any reference to the districts, the MUD district's attorney, modified to simply be general counsel.
General counsel or general legal
General
counsel?
legal counsel.
General legal
We have a lot of
counsel.
General legal
Sometimes we have
counsel.
counsel.
That'll work.
I'm seconding all that stuff.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're gonna vote on each one of these, or what are you gonna do,
No,
Coach?
No, we
it's as
modified.
amended,
It was as
as
amended.
amended, Bill.
Okay, so I'm gonna do a recap then. When you, are we finished? And I'll do a recap.
I'm finished.
Okay, so we have a motion before us to approve this document with the following changes. Throughout the document, the term district attorney will be re-identified as general legal counsel.
That's one.
That's one. I gotta get a smaller picture.
We're gonna remove
We're
references
gonna,
to,
on 405L, we're going to delete the word president in that sentence. On 308, we are going to delete 308. And on 307, we're going to delete the last sentence that says, if another officer or staff designee of the board has not been named investment officer, the secretary treasurer shall be an investment officer. That's provided in section 308. And in section 301, after, in the second line, we'll put a period after article. and delete including but not limited to an investment officer.
And Bill, back on your L,
Okay,
it's gonna delete the word president and.
Okay, I stand corrected on president and.
I caught the same, looked at the same thing. Okay, the motion's been stated, seconded, and restated.
Can we please vote on it?
Any other question, comments? Hearing none, all in favor? Motion passed unanimously.
Man,
Okay,
That calls for a party.
consider and take appropriate action regarding request by CPNY for additional engineering fees related to wastewater treatment plant improvement project. Staff?
Thank you. If you'll look at your pack of papers that was sitting here on the desk, I was unable to get this into the board packet on time, but there's a brief write-up on what this item is. It shows as, well, it's a memo from me to the board, subject matter item 15 on the agenda. That's the next one. So it's the one right before that. Okay, so you can read it as you will, but I've been going through trying to clean up what I call the paper trail for these contracts. There's been 4 addendums created to the contract we have originally with Wallace and now with CPNY for the design and construction phase services at the wastewater facility. Those addendums come with signature blocks for the district, signature blocks for the engineer. We had minutes in the board meeting packet for number 1, number 3, and number 4, but there was no reference for number 2. I went back and started looking for that. It had been submitted to the district back in February of 2016, signed by the engineer, but not by us. Actually, the work was done. It was to crush concrete cylinders for testing of concrete strength. We paid it, but in fact, reading the procurement policy, I don't have the authority to sign it because it's over $25,000. So this is really an after-the-fact approval we're seeking so that I can sign that and get the paperwork in order. It has been paid. This does not increase future expenditures.
Okay. I make a motion that we approve the request for additional engineering fees related to wastewater treatment improvement plant by CPNY for $30,000 for
Addendum 2.
the addendum that was presented at the dais.
Did you say authorize the general manager to sign that?
And we authorize the general manager, I just said to approve it, but to authorize the general manager to sign the contract addendum.
Second.
Motion by Director Wilson, second by Director Rose. Any other any comments or questions? Hearing none, raise your hand if you're in favor. Motion passes unanimously. Item number 16. Consider, I apologize, consider and take appropriate action regarding selection of engineering consultant for design of the 16-inch water transmission line improvements to be generally located between the district existing ground storage tank at Trophy Club Drive and existing elevated tank on T.W. King Road. A, staff recommendation for received recommendation from staff regarding selection of engineering firm. B, authorized staff to negotiate a contract with the engineering firm for subsequent consideration and approval by the board of directors. Thank you. General Manager Carmen.
Yes, there's another backup memo that was right after this one for item number 16. We have approved a contract that's for $9,000 on a task order with CPNY to fill out our loan application to TWDB through TCEQ for the loan to pay for this line. Portions of the line have already been designed by half engineers, so from the tank here down to Trophy Club Road. the loan will be for the entire design and construction phase pieces. So, we have CPNY filling out this loan, and one of the elements that have to be in the packet is a signed engineering agreement with whoever's going to do the design. Well, this is likely to be on the order of at least $200,000 in engineering fees to do this work. And I didn't feel like I could just assign that to CPNY as one of our engineers. So we asked both of our engineers that have been approved by the board, HAF and CPNY, to submit a very narrow statement of qualifications, which included a cover letter and a resume of their project manager. We asked them to make a commitment that that project manager would be available for the whole project. And, in their cover letter to show us what their scope of work would be so that they understood the role. I assigned a cross-functional group of folks from the team to be the selection committee and gave them the criteria that's outlined here in the letter. They came back with a recommendation that we enter into that agreement with HAF and Associates for this work. We're effectively asking for direction to go negotiate that scope and fee and bring it back in order not to hold up the financing of the project. This may be one that we ask for a special meeting to approve once the contract is hammered out agreement-wise, so we can get it moving.
So do I understand that CPNY is going to make the filing for the loan, but HAF is going to do the engineering? Is that correct?
HAF would do the remainder of the engineering. They've already done a portion of it. And it's, as I talked to Tony, this is not uncommon. There are actually specialty firms out there that fill out these applications and then never actually do the engineering work themselves.
So you would like to have authority to continue to have CPNY prepare the application for the loan and for HAF to do the engineering?
Yes, sir. And I would note that as I am also a contractor who may at some point in the future work with one or both of these firms, I did not participate in the selection.
Okay.
So it was other staff members.
Well, I will make a motion that we proceed forward with CPNY preparing the, what's it called? Loan application, and that HAF complete the remainder of the engineering down to the elevated tank.
And construction phase services.
Okay.
Okay, we'll a motion by Director Hayes to authorize the staff to negotiate a contract with HAF and Associates for the subsequent consideration for the engineering for the existing ground storage tank on Trophy Club Drive and existing elevated tank on TW King Road, and allow CPNY to do the loan application. It was seconded by Director Thomas. Any other questions or comments?
Just clarity, and I'm not sure, staff would negotiate it, I'm not sure if it's time and materials or.
It would be in this case.
Okay. Is the board asking for a contract to come back, or are they authorizing staff to proceed with execution?
Well, this has, since the project is likely to be 50,000.
Well, what did John mean when he said, what did Carmen mean when he said we have to call a special meeting to approve the contract?
Yeah, bring it back for, we said it's likely gonna be several $100,000. I would think the board wants
I
to.
thought he was saying he'd bring the contract back for approval.
Yeah,
Okay.
And just for clarification, the board's already approved CPNY to do the,
Application.
Bond application.
yeah, the bond
did
application.
we approve amount?
Duplicate,
Not to exceed
Yes.
9,000
yes.
Okay,
That part of the motion's duplicate.
by the board.
okay. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Item number 17, consider and take appropriate action regarding the August 2017 combined financials and variance report. Staff? Or Secretary Treasurer?
Okay, I have gone through and signed checks for a lot of money this last month, I will tell you that. And in the some of the financials here, I have a few suggestions, and I think I'm going to reserve those and take them to staff to discuss them before I bring them back to the board. I wanted to take note on page 159, budget summary with amendments. I wanted to take note here of that we're at 91%, we're 91% of the year complete on this report. And so as you look through the numbers, you can tell exactly how the funding has been trending and how we're doing. As I mentioned earlier, water sales are down. Looks at the 11-month point, they were at 79.2, and waste sewers at 88.2. Linearly, taking the dollar amount linearly, it looks like water sales are going to be short about $871,000, and sewer is going to be short about $98,000 for the year. But once again, due to the excellent work of staff, I think we're in good shape on that. Let's see if I have other comments that I had through here. Learn my new function. Other than that, I think in the variance report, when we get down to that, one other item was the amount of legal fees. You'll find that on page 207. One of the things that raised the legal,
Which page?
207 of the packet. One of the things that drove the legal fees up for this billing period was we finally received the billing amounts from Liston Law Firm for the previous part of the year, dating clear back to, what was that, back to February? Yeah, so February through May, we finally got their billing on that. And I believe, with respect to the rate appeal, I believe that Renee told me that we may have some money coming back.
I was gonna ask about that. Do
Yes.
we have money in retainer that they're holding?
Yes, there's like 81,000, a little more than 81,000. It has been reconciled. I worked with Paul yesterday. He's gonna be sending the check. I'd asked him to please get it to us before the end of the year so that we can get it cleared out. So he's going to be sending that check any day.
$81,000.
81,000. There's some odd dollars, yeah.
But roughly. Okay, good.
That's a pretty good feeling. Let me flash on down through here, see if I have any other comments. I didn't organize them into a comment section. Okay, down in the variance report, I'm on page 239, and in that report, we talk about the sewer. There's a comment, the sewer revenue is just slightly below budget amount, but I also talked about water. Water is not reflected on that report. And I got to keep that balance going. And then on variance report 240, there was a comment about interfund transfer out reserve. SWIFT funding and wastewater treatment plant reserves were coded to water. They've been corrected to wastewater.
Right.
That affects that one. And then non-departmental legal, and you'll see the current month at $86,000. But getting $80,000 back feels pretty good.
Soften that blow.
Yes. That's all I have. I move to accept the variance and financial report.
Second?
We have a motion by Director Rose to accept the August 2017 combined financial and variance report, seconded by Director Thomas. Are there any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor, raise your hand. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, we have reports and updates. Try not to all talk over each other.
Well, certainly there were many items in your packet for review along these lines. A water operations report, electricity report, wastewater report, utility billing, permits collected, cash report. I would add that under the second bullet of item A, that in fact, we have modified our website to reflect direction to the replacement Wise Guys program. The language that was put in by Tarrant Regional Water District had some errors in it, so we're working, Michelle is working with Dean Mancello over at that district to get the language right. They basically were attributing it to the town and not the mud, so we're trying to get it clarified there. But it's at least up on our website, and people want to sign up for an audit. It's available today.
Okay. On the electricity report, is that the projection that you got for the plant when we went out for the request on what the plant was going to use on electricity? 242 on the packet.
242.
So this is not going to be a continuing report. That was just for that one particular study to show the use.
Right. So we asked, we are having some challenges with the installation of the membranes at that facility. The introduction of membranes is going to drive up the cost of, but I should say the power consumption of that facility. But it did seem like it was more than it should be. And you questioned that during the budget process, given that, we've put in a pretty big increase for the following year. That project is behind schedule, so when it really ramps up on the electrical use, we weren't really sure. And we also weren't sure that maybe some of the electrical use we're seeing through the temporary meter wasn't in fact a result of shoddy installation. So we asked the design engineer to go back and say, well, what is the full load amperage, that FLA number is full load amperage,
Okay.
and then tried to compare that to what our projection was and our assumptions about what kind of pricing we'll get per kilowatt hour. I think we're in the ballpark, and I believe that's what I told you, is our estimate is looking pretty good. One challenge is maybe when we really come into full operation with those membranes. The last I heard, the schedule called for them to be done by end of February, but yeah, we'll see.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else on reports and updates?
I would like to say something about the cash report. Jim, Director Hayes had mentioned that a few minutes ago. He had asked me, a couple of months ago, Jim, asked me to bring this back. Terry used to do this, and I modified this.
What page is it on? I'm sorry.
That's the very bottom of it.
250.
It's page 250. So basically, I modified this. I listed the accounts, made them more descriptive so that y'all could understand exactly which account it is, cash account. Put it in a restricted column versus unrestricted and total cash. Also, this month, I pulled out the fire department. The fire department was up mixed in with the top, so it made it look like we had more money in the general fund basically available. So I pulled that out and separated it so that you could see what is actually fire department money versus general fund money. Down at the bottom, I also added what the fund balances are, the non-spendable, which is prepaid, the $34.86. That's a postage deposit that we have with our billing Data Pros company. The assigned fund balance, the $365,920. That's what's left of the $370,000 in this year's budget for the high-speed pump at the water plant. And then the rest of the assigned fund balance is the security, $60,000, which we will be spending part of that this year. Also, there's probably going to be maybe some more bills that come in on the high speed, maybe CPNY or, a little bit, not the big bucks yet.
What's the date for installing that thing?
What's the what?
I have no idea yet. It's been in engineering for several months now.
This is the high-speed pump?
Huh?
This is the variable,
Variable speed pump,
Right.
yes. I spoke with Kevin earlier this week, and he said I'm supposed to see some preliminary plans maybe next week.
Okay, so, Jim, what do you think?
Think it's good, Renee.
I like it.
Good, thank
I
you.
have one question. Do you have, is there anything that shows the total amount in the various Gatsby accounts?
Yes, it's on here. Oh, you want the breakdown of the 410,000?
No.
So it's the fourth line on the top. It has Gatsby replacement. Under restricted, it's showing $410,006.
It's a summary.
Okay, it's
Okay,
a
so
summary
that's,
of
that's
that.
the total. But in the financials, the Gatsby fund is, fund number 137. And in that, actually on the balance sheet, it has a column for Gatsby. And it has it broke down, somebody had asked, I think, Director Rose had asked me to break each category out on the, balance sheet to show each one. So
Okay.
it has that, I don't know what page that is, I could look it up.
You do a search for 137 dash 10250 and it'll come up.
Right, so that's water, sewer, fire department, and we took IT out. Was that it? 3?
I think so.
Anyway, it has the breakdown on that fund balance, or that balance sheet. I'm gonna find it here in just a second. Fire, that's fire, so it's gonna be,
Around 209.
While she's looking for that, I would say that it's probably clear to everyone that the unrestricted sum of $2,361,370 is basically available for shortfalls. It looks like we're gonna have shortfalls in both water and wastewater.
kind of fire.
And this give you the ability to cover some of those.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on reports and updates?
I'll just add a little bit in here real quick. As most people know, we have not been getting rains here lately like we have been, so I do expect to close out the year very strong. September may be my largest pumped month of the year.
Way to go.
We have
We
had.
hate that rain.
Yeah. Well, if we don't get no rain in the next couple of weeks, it's going to be a real good end to the year for us. We have had a few main breaks resulting in all the dry weather. 2 of them were actually under driveways that we did incur a little bit of cost on, but nothing extremely terrible.
But
Okay.
my lake is down. I'd like for it to start raining October.
You can buy water.
Not fill that lake.
I found that breakdown, it's on page 158. In the middle column there, down at the bottom, it has the assigned fund balances. The town elevated storage tank is the other one that,
Okay. So it's
that
at
I didn't list a
135,
minute
90,
ago.
37,805, and
Right.
147,802.
right.
Okay.
Come on.
And I reimbursed money out of the Gatsby Fire Department for, last year, y'all approved a bunch of fire station improvements or, fixes. And, we're finally getting, hopefully, to the end of that. So I reimbursed the amount of money that we had. It was like for the year, like 23,000. They have, some vents that are leaking. It was like a contract for 3,500, I think it was, that they're gonna fix. They think they're close to being, other than, once they get the leaking stuff fixed, then they can do the sheetrock
Right.
repair,
Okay.
so.
Okay. Hearing nothing else on reports and updates, we'll move into closed session. Pursuant to section 551-071 of the Texas Open Meeting Act, the board may consult with this attorney in closed session on a matter in which the duty of the attorney to the governmental body under the disciplinary rules of professional conduct of the State Bar of Texas clearly conflicts with the Open Meeting Act, or to seek advice of counsel legal matters involving pending or contemplating litigation or settlement offers. A, contractor breach, performance and payment is related to district contract on Weber Cadagua Partners for construction of the wastewater treatment plant improvements. B, district application for renewal of waste discharge permit number WQ 0011593001, State Office of Administrative Hearings, SOA docket number 582-17-5380, section 20, pursuant to 551.074 of the Texas Open Meeting Act, the board may deliberate the appointment, employment evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, or dismissal of a public officer or employee, including general manager, finance manager, and human resource manager / financial analyst. 21, pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551076, the board will meet in closed session to discuss internal security recommendations regarding district's assets and governance. Finally, number 22, pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551-072, the board will meet in closed session to deliberate the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real estate if deliberations in an open meeting would have a detrimental effect on the position of the district in negotiations with the third party. We're moving into closed session at 9:13.
Take a break.
Given that no one's here, can we just do it here?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it, makes sense.
Yeah. Bring your mic back into play.
Okay, it is now 10:13. We will return to regular session. Item 23, consider and take appropriate action on matters deliberated in closed session.
I move to authorize the general manager to upgrade the security system in an amount not to exceed $60,000.
Well, motion by Director Rose to give the general manager authority to upgrade the security system to not to exceed $60,000. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Director Hayes. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor, raise your hand. Motion passes unanimously. Items for future agenda. Do we want to put the modification to the general manager's contract on a future agenda item?
We might do that at the special meeting, right?
Wouldn't it still qualify as a, or does this stipulate that it has to be the next regular meeting?
I think it does. I think this says, this is for regular business.
And the board has the flexibility to
Yeah.
schedule a special meeting and put items on that, so we're
Yeah.
good.
Okay. Any other items for future agenda? Happy to hear that ethics will never be raised again.
Oh,
Yeah,
and
me
I'll be working on the, whatever the new policy's called.
Yeah, that,
At risk management.
At-risk management
yeah,
policy.
that thing. Hearing nothing for future agendas. Next meeting date, regular board meeting scheduled for October 17th, 2017 is 6:30.
October 17th?
What did I say?
Is that what you said, October?
I think that's what I
Yes.
said. What
Yeah, I
did I say?
just was curious.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay, I thought I misspoke.
No.
Okay,
Yeah, 17th is right date.
okay. That's it.
I move to adjourn.
So move. Meeting closes at 10:16.
We're adjourned.
We are now adjourned.